everyone, to this week's episode of the Event 360 Summer School Shorts. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Jillian Schranz, and I'm joined here today with two of our best experts in all things signage, Aaron Payafsky and Jake Geiger. So let's go ahead and start with planning. Aaron, when you think about getting ready to plan for an event, what are some of the first things that come to your mind to make sure that the signage is perfect?
Signage is going to be something that goes on the bones of an event. So you got to have those bones in place first. So once you have a good idea of what your festival site or event village site is going to look like in terms of which tents you're going to have there, how big they are, signage comes in pretty standard sizes. So you know that you've got so and so many 10 by 10 tents, you've got some 10 by 20s, and you're going to get the right size and kind of signage to go on the outside of those tents, the right amount of coroplast, if you're going to throw in some fun Mondo flags or feather flags, those are always add to the look of an event village. So once you've got that idea, you can work on, jazzing up the look of the event village based on which signage you're going to put out to represent the client.
That's great. And now, if you're a nonprofit and you either maybe have some signs in your inventory, or let's say you're planning for signs for an event, but you want to use them for a longer amount of time, like how can you be smart about the planning as you're thinking about your run or walk event?
There are definitely ways to make your signage as evergreen as possible. You can get a lot of years out of good vinyl or coroplast signage if you plan correctly and smartly. We always discourage putting anything on a sign that might be specific to a certain year or a certain city, especially if that signage is going to move around from city to city. So make things as generic as possible so that they can be swapped out and used in different places or on different years. If you happen to know that your organization changes its logo every few years, or the font used in its name branding or anything like that, keep that in mind while you're planning your signage as well. And maybe don't put the logo on something so that in a couple of years you're not looking at it going, oh, we don't use that logo anymore. Make it as generic as possible while still being on brand for your organization.
That's great. Jake, I'm going to turn it over to you for a second. I know that there are a lot of organizations that we work with who have event series in multiple markets, and you oversee events that have maybe dozens of event locations. So the thought of ordering all of that signage, especially when there's multiple stakeholders involved, talk to us about some of your tips for streamlining the ordering process.
Yeah, I think having it centralized and streamlined for simplicity with different users is important to keep in mind. So we found a lot of success in using an online portal. So just making it as simple and user-friendly as possible, having everything kind of located in one central area. So whether it's a volunteer, a staff member, whether it's on the client side or even on our side, having that login and being able to go into that portal where everything's kind of laid out in front of you, whether it's the picture of the thumbnail, it has the quantity of the inventory in there. We try to get ahead of the questions that the end user may ask, and we display everything out on the portal so that they can order it right there and have even shipping addresses preloaded. There's a lot of things you can do to think ahead for that end user so that it just is simple for them. It's all about simplicity and kind of knowing what they're getting.
That's great. So let's say we have put together the signage package. The ordering went really well. Everything is the right spec. Everything gets delivered on time, knock on wood. Let's talk about on event now. So Aaron, I know you are the queen of all things signage on event. Tell us some of your favorite tips and tricks. What are some of the really key things that you train your team to have on hand when they hit the ground on site?
Yes, impeccable on event signage is the hill that I will die on every time. Zip ties are going to be your best friend for a lot of the signs that you're going to put up. If it's vinyl storefront signage that goes on the front of a tent, or a stage backdrop, or a scrim, or a photo backdrop, zip ties are going to be the godsend that will help keep these signs exactly where they should be. So make sure you have the right sizes, strengths, and amount of zip ties that you're going to need. Always order too many rather than risk not having enough. The zip ties that you use to hang a 40 by 20 foot stage backdrop are going to be different than the ones you use to hang a 10-foot storefront sign. So make sure you have the right ones for what you're going to need, and all the right hardware that you're going to need if there's other types of signage that you're putting up that require their own unique hardware, like feather flags or Mondo flags or H-frames for Coroplast signs. Have all that stuff handy. Have a good pair of snips to go with the zip ties that you may need to redo. And I think the very best thing you can have, and we certainly keep this in mind when we're, deciding who's going to staff an event, is to have at least one, two or more is better, staff person there who really knows how to install signage, knows how to put the Mondo poles together, knows how to use pipe and drape to put a sign on the front of a tent. Even if the rest of the staff people there aren't as knowledgeable, having that one expert on the team there who can instruct the other staff, volunteers, vendors if necessary, on how to install signage perfectly, it really makes a huge difference.
Got it. So signage captain on event, check. In terms of inventory, Jake, you keep us all organized on event, pre-event, and post-event. Talk to us about some of your best practices when it comes to signage and inventory.
Yeah, I think it dovetails perfectly off what Aaron was just saying. You have that signage captain or that lead kind of lead the charge as far as getting that inventory. So whether you want to capture that digitally or old school paper, capture it that way too. Everybody has their preference. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the goal is to take that inventory and get it back into a centralized inventory, especially if you have multiple events. But we like to have that person kind of be stationary, collecting all of the signage in from the site as people are bringing it in, inventory, and adding it to that digital form or that paper form as the event is loading out. But know ahead of what you're automatically going to maybe scrap, throw away. It's going to end up being used somewhere else. It's not going to go with that main kit. But know that ahead of time, and then label, package back up. Also just making sure, taking care of anything that might be wet or damaged, note those things so that as it gets packed up and put away, you can replace for next year.
That's a great point. We do so much and lay the best plans and preparations for events. But what happens when weather rolls through, Jake? Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you do to ensure that our signs stay in good shape, we're safe on event when it comes to all things signage?
Yeah, first you have to have a good understanding of your overall signage package. A big vinyl banner is also a sail. So monitoring weather, having a threshold for how fast the wind could be moving to take it down. Maybe it's 10, 13 miles an hour, kind of depends on the site, maybe the terrain. But during load-in, night before the event, if we know there's going to be wind, we roll those big signs. And then we drop them first thing in the morning. The other thing, we'll try to maybe delay, if we know it's going to rain, putting out anything fabric that might get wet. And we try to put those up last minute. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Things get wet, things might come undone. So we always do a QC first thing in the morning, go around, button everything up, and then post-event when you're doing that inventory, if signage is wet or whatever, we try to dry it off, especially if it's going to be going into a storage unit for 6 months. We don't want that to be a science experiment the next time we use it. So we dry things off, squeegee, whatever it might be. And then if we aren't there to take care of it, we note it for our clients to make sure they might have a volunteer or a committee that might need to go in and deal with that the following week when our staff leave town.
That sounds good. All right, Aaron, coming back to you. Final parting thoughts. Tell us, your best takeaway when it comes to perfect signage on event and how we do it.
Signage has a very important function on an event. It tells people where things are located, what direction to go, but it doesn't have to stop at being functional, and it doesn't take a lot of extra effort to take your signage installation from functional to aesthetically wow. And having participants walk into an event site and see that the signs are straight, they're hung tightly, everything is level, everything has been extra thought and care has been put in to putting the signs out in a way that don't just tell you where to go, but make you feel like you're part of a community and an event that has put some care and love into the event that they're putting on really makes such a huge difference. It's a reflection of the client. It's a reflection of us as the event producers. And it's a real, tip of the hat to all the participants who have come out to give their time and energy at your event by saying, we want you to have an amazing, beautiful event. So put those extra little efforts in. Doesn't take much.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. Stay tuned for the next summer school shorts. We'll see you back here next week.